Hello and welcome to another episode of Pitch Perfect, HaytersTV's women's football show. I'm Ayisha Gulati and I'm joined by Jamie Spangher and Gurav. Well, what a weekend we've had. Champions League semi-finals did not disappoint. Arsenal are in to a final and they will face Barcelona after they knocked out Chelsea. We've also seen WSL action as Crystal Palace were relegated. We're going to be bringing you all of that with some exclusive player interviews, so stay right where you are. You do not want to miss it. We would love you to get involved in the conversation. Please send your comments, and we have a poll going on who is going to win the Champions League this year. Is it going to be Barcelona or Arsenal? We want to hear from you. Please vote in the poll. We will keep you updated throughout with the poll results. But for now, we're going to jump straight to it. Guys, what a weekend. There is only one place to start. Jamie, you said the comeback was not on last week.
I did. Hands up, I'll admit it.
Yeah, well, they proved you wrong, and I think we're all glad they did. Mm-hmm. Wow. Did you overestimate Lyon or did you underestimate Arsenal?
Can I be honest? I think it's both, right? I think Lyon were a shell of themselves this game. They were really, really poor, but Arsenal from minute one brought the intensity. I was so pleasantly surprised, but I'm not going to lie. I did wake up Sunday morning and think, that could be on actually. I've changed my mind. So yeah, I think it was a bit of both.
Nice. And Uma, what was your take on the result? A 4-1 in both. And I think we saw the 4-1 in the Arsenal game was maybe one people were not expecting.
I think I must have been one of the only people to do this, but I was that Arsenal fan and I did book my tickets to Lisbon before the first leg.
Before the flights went up in price as well, right?
A bit of blind faith. And after the first leg, I was thinking, But to be fair, I did think Arsenal were actually quite strong in the first leg. And I didn't expect them to turn it around to that degree. But Lyon, honestly, unbeaten in the Champions League until that point. They didn't look anything like themselves. And I just thought, what a moment for Renée Slagers as well, because Joe Montemurro used to be her kind of teacher and everything. And look, the apprentice truly has overcome the master now. But yeah, who's to say they can't go all the way now?
Yeah, definitely. And I think they are getting this name as the comeback queens. They have done it time and time again. I'm just trying to cast my mind back. It wasn't too long ago when they were almost being knocked out of the early stages of the Champions League after they lost away at Hacken, right? And here they are, first final for 18 years. I mean, what an achievement.
What a journey. Like you said, there was a 1-0 loss in the first leg against BK Häcken, a 5-2 loss in the first group stage match to Bayern Munich. I think if you told this group and this manager that they would be in a Champions League final against the best team in Europe, the best team in the world, it's such a journey because you're right. I think the group stages we saw, as soon as Renée Slagers came in, there was that really poor result under Jonas Eidevall against Bayern Munich. There was a loss in the WSL against Chelsea, and then Renée kind of came in and from the get-go, a big 4-1 victory over Vålerenga, and now they're beating Lyon 4-1. It just seems kind of ludicrous.
I know, it makes you wonder what would have happened if Renée Slagers had taken over at the
beginning
of the season. I know, I don't want to. But you look at the WSL now and you look at how Chelsea are and how they must be feeling right now, and you do think, God, Arsenal could really have done something this season. And I know, they've missed out on domestic stuff. My one worry, though, they're the comeback queens at the moment. The final's only one leg. I'm thinking, you don't have time to go behind and then come back. You've got to do it all in 90 minutes. So hopefully they can just channel some of that. But yeah, no, what a performance.
Yes, well, we have loads of exclusive footage coming up in this episode, but we will give you your first slice of that when we got Allesia Russo's post-match reaction, and she said just how much it meant to her and the team to make it to a European final.
I mean, everything. It means so much for this club, not only for me just joining, but for the players that have been here a long time. And I feel that energy, I feel how they feel, but we want it so bad, and we'll do everything we can, but yeah, we're just going to enjoy the moment for now.
At times it's been a difficult season, but do you feel as though this is this is your season overall, considering you've overcome such hardships?
Yeah, we've been on a journey, and yeah, it's been full of highs and lows, but this is one thing that we've really turned up and performed in, and against the world's best. So yeah, we know the level we can bring, we know the standard that we now have, and we just want to continue growing.
You haven't got long to celebrate, but can you really celebrate tonight?
Yeah, we'll have a little celebration. We've got a game on Wednesday, so it'll be a quick turnaround, but yeah, we'll enjoy the moment.
Well, I hope they did have some celebrations because they deserved it. And a goal for Russo, another goal, of course. And goals from Mariona Caldente and Caitlin Ford. And I have to say, I was still in the press box at Chelsea because I was at the Chelsea game yesterday, and I was still there for the first half, and we had the Arsenal game on the screens. And the Barcelona team was still there in the change room, and I could hear them. And when the Mariona Caldente goal went in, there were screams. And I don't know if that's because they were just really supporting their old teammate in Mariona, or if they just really want to play Arsenal in the Champions League final.
I'm not sure how I feel about it. They're not going to be so celebrating if she goes and scores against them.
It felt quite sweet, I have to say. It felt like they were supporting Mariona. So that's really nice to hear. But Russo mentioned in her interview, and you can catch that full interview on Haters YouTube channel. So please do go and check out all of these in full, because we're just showing you little snippets. But Russo mentioned in that about being ruthless, and how Arsenal needed to be ruthless and were ruthless yesterday. And I think that was the difference. Last week, they were not ruthless. They had so many chances, didn't take them. And then they did. And all of a sudden, they can score. They've got that ability. And it's often different goal scorers as well, which just shows their depth.
I think that's the biggest thing you can take away from this Arsenal team this year. You've finally got Allesia Russo ticking, which is a massive plus. We've spoken about that a lot on this show. Whereas Jonas Eidevall wasn't sure whether he wanted to start Stina Blackstenius, start Allesia Russo, and you're giving this world-class player the time she deserves on the pitch, and it's working. Like, she's got 8 goals in the Champions League. That's only 3 less than she has in the WSL with significantly less games. So she's turning up, but then there's goals coming from everywhere. Like you said, there's an Arsenal team here that we know they can score, and I think when you've got so many players that can raise the level, it's so important and integral, especially at Europe. But Mariona Caldente raises the level of this Arsenal team. She has turned them into a good team to a great team. I think when you have a player like that, she's truly world class. She's truly just one of the best. To be able to score that goal, she's taken it on a touch in a busy area and finessed it into the top corner. I think it just fills the whole squad with confidence. And Leah Williamson posted on Instagram, and Mariona Caldente commented, like, I told you guys. Like, she knew that was going to happen. She has it in her. So I think, wow, what a player.
I think that signing as well, when you look at what she's done this season, I hope that encourages them to go and get more kind of world-class signings, like you say, like that. Because yes, I do think this Arsenal team is great, and they've got a lot of pedigree in that team. But naturally, you know, the order of things is going to change, and they're going to have to do some good business this summer. They do want to go and challenge the likes of Chelsea for the WSL, get some more domestic trophies next season. But this goal-scoring thing as well, I do think they need to sort out what it is that differentiated that performance yesterday from the first leg. Because you know, they had, I think it was 4 shots on target in the first game, and obviously the only goal came from a penalty. Yesterday, they had 6 shots on target and like managed to convert 4 of those. So it's like, why is it that in those moments, Arsenal can't quite convert? Why is Frida Mann firing wide? Why is Allesia Russo firing over the bar? What is it, a mentality thing? Renee Slegers, I think, needs to have a look at that. The strikers themselves need to have a look at that, because when they can perform, God, can they perform, and they can find goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I'm just going to cut. You mentioned some of the social media posts. I have some of the nice social media posts that some of the Arsenal players have put up, and I think some of them are really. Chloe Kelly's really got me. Like a great trip off to Leon in the morning, yeah, that one. Katie knew that's Mariona's strike that we were just talking about. I absolutely love that. Katie McCabe in the background, already throwing her arms up in the air. And of course, Kim Little recognised with that Player of the Match trophy. Leah Walty praising her, finally recognised. And yeah, I think that's just, that just sums it up really, doesn't it? And yeah, Kim Little, talking of Kim Little, there was a lovely interview with Leah Williamson following the match, where she praised just how important their captain is.
Yeah, to be honest, the first person and the only person I want to see was Kim. Kim Little is an unbelievable footballer that goes under the radar all the time, and she, you know, unfortunately, an international stage didn't provide her with any of these incredible opportunities. But she's a player worthy of 7 or 8 Champions League titles, I think, and I'm very proud that the team did that for her today, and the way that she led us. It's pretty special. That's what's making me happy in the celebrations. Sorry.
And finally, look, Barcelona in the final. We've just seen what they've done to Chelsea.
Yeah.
Is that going to take an even more sort of Herculean effort to beat them?
Yeah, it's a final, right? So most of us in the team haven't been there before, but you can expect, it's one game, you know, you can expect everything. The last game of the season, first time I've ever been involved, so yeah, you can expect the same the same gutsy performance that you saw today, I think.
Congratulations again, Leah.
Thank you.
And we have some scores on the doors for the poll at the moment, which is who will win the Champions League final. Arsenal are leading with 81% and Barcelona 19%. So there you go. We will come on to discuss
We laughed
Barcelona's
last week.
impressive. We did laugh last week.
But Arsenal proved us wrong.
Arsenal proved us wrong. Yeah, and that's something they are continuing to do over and over again this season. And we've got a Renee Slegger's scarf up there, and we've already touched on her a little bit. But Jamie, what is it that she has brought to this Arsenal side and really reignited them?
I just think, first and foremost, the one thing we need to speak about is the players are constantly going on about the freedom she's awarded them, the happiness and the love she's brought back to the changing room. And I spoke to Leah Williamson just before Christmas, and she said, look, Renee has come into this job at a very hard time. Arsenal have been underperforming. Like, there hasn't been a league title in 10 years. It's been a very big drought for such a decorated club. And she's just brought back the freedom and let them lead from themselves. And I asked Renee about this in a press conference prior to the Lyon game. What are those kind of conversations you're having with the players? And she was very certain that said, I have a sacred 45 minutes every single day that I just socialize with those players. I connect with those individuals. And I think Jonas Adeval was a good tactician. I think his tactics have been underrated for a long time. He's very good at the micro stuff, but he was never good at the macro stuff. And I think that's what Renee Slegers is bringing. I think she praises her assistant coach, Aaron D'Antonio, a lot. He's a really good tactician, but it just feels like she's connecting with these humans. And her job at Arsenal before she was the head coach was the assistant coach, which was the player management coach. And you can see that transpire. It's kind of giving freedom to the players, getting to know them as people, and then asking them, how do you think we solve these problems, rather than saying this is how we solve them. So I think it's just kind of connecting to these world-class footballers. You don't play for Arsenal if you're not good at football. She knows that they're good at football. We need to do the backroom stuff, and I think she's just done it brilliantly.
Yeah, you're right. All the players are so full of praise. You can tell that they really, really get her, and it's working. Well, whatever it is she's doing, she needs to just keep doing it. And we've got a few comments coming in. A lot of praise for Kim Little. Dante, Kim Little, she's the GOAT, underrated legend. Yep. Reggie Shimmer, Kim Little, what a performance. Well, talking of Kim Little, the GOAT, whatever you want to call her, Arsenal captain, leader, legend, we got some post-match reaction from her where she reacted to the wonderful things that Leah had said about her.
When you first joined the club in 2008, what does it mean for you personally to take this club to a position where it's felt like it should have been a long time ago?
Yeah, it's really special. I think you could see that at the end of the game. I think sometimes you just go day to day and you put in all the hard work, and then a moment like this comes and it just feels pretty special. And also to even have Kelly here, who also played in the 2007 final when the club was last there as well. So yeah, lots of little special moments, and I can't wait to take this club to the next one.
I just spoke to Leah Williamson, and she said, look, we're all so proud, but we're so proud for Kim. She's been a world-class player, but she's never actually experienced the Champions League final that she deserves. How does it feel to experience that love?
Yeah, I mean, we work together day in, day out with Leah, especially, and obviously all the girls, and we see what each other put into it, and we've obviously got special bonds in that way. So yeah, it's going to be pretty special to share those moments, and especially with someone like Leah.
I can see how much.
So sweet to see her getting so clearly emotional about that. And it's so nice to see just how much the players care for her and think, and how much they think of her, right? Like, that's what it comes down to.
It's amazing. I mean, when you think about it, she joined right after they won the quadruple, right? And then as a player, to know that you're at a club that is capable of winning that much and being that successful, and then to just fall into a period where maybe you're not achieving that much, things are getting difficult, things are changing, and then to get to this many years later and still not have got back to that point, and then to kind of gather the strength to get through this difficult managerial period, to connect with Renee Slegers. And Kim Little, what I think is so remarkable about her as captain is she's not that kind of loud leader, is she, where you always hear from her and she's marshalling the players. It's that quiet strength that she just gives to everyone. And I remember on Friday, there were a couple of hours where everyone was terrified that Kim Little wasn't going to play because she wasn't in training. And you do just think, God, she's in some ways the most important player on the pitch for Arsenal, because without that experience, they just don't have that quality. And, you know, she won player of the match, rightly so, because she was outstanding. And I don't know how many years she's got left in an Arsenal shirt. Obviously, I know. Her Scotland days are over, and like Leah Williamson said there, she never quite garnered that acclaim. So to see her lead them to a Champions League trophy would just be incredible, because she deserves to be that person.
Yeah, rightly said. And I think I actually caught up with her a couple of months ago now, and I asked her what type of leader she thought she was. And she said, "Oh, I'm a quiet leader, and I like to think I'm just someone who sort of leads by the way I do things rather than the way I say things." And I think that just sums her up perfectly, right? She does her talking on the pitch, always has, and she's so humble as well. Like that clip is just so lovely to see.
You forget like all the things that she did in the States before she came to. She was incredible. She's had such a good career, but she never kind of talks about it at all, does she?
No, not at all. Well, I'm really glad she's been getting the praise she deserves. And we're not done talking about Arsenal. I'll come and talk a bit later about the challenge that Barcelona are going to pose to them. But I think we will now move on and talk about that second semi-final, the Barcelona-Chelsea semi-final. It was always going to be such a tough ask for Chelsea to come back from that 4-1 in the first leg. But I don't think we expected another 4-1. What do you think, guys? Was it unexpected?
Yeah, I think it certainly was. You look at the first leg in isolation. I thought it was a poor performance across the board for Chelsea. Barcelona dismantled them, especially in the final 30 minutes. And you're always going to get that challenge when you play the defending champions. They've won back-to-back Champions Leagues. They're the best team in Europe over the last 5 years. So it's always going to be a challenge. But the way that Chelsea fell to that defeat in the first leg didn't set anyone's hopes very high for the second leg. And I don't think anyone was saying, okay, they're going to overturn the deficit. I don't think it was going to be 4-1. And we saw it from the outset. It was just, I think that people got a bit misconstrued with the first 20 minutes because Chelsea did look threatening. They looked very, very good. They looked like they were aggressive in the press. I thought Sandy Baltimore was exceptional in leading that press. But that's exactly what Barcelona wanted them to do. Attack the ball. We want you to score. We go forward on the counter-attack. Aitana Bonmati puts it into the top corner. Like, that's exactly what Barcelona wanted them to do. Get comfortable with the press and then we'll exploit you. And then from then, it was just game over. To put in 3 goals before halftime, it felt like I was sitting there at halftime in the press box and I was like, oh, well, probably can go home now. Like, yeah, it wasn't good. And I just, it's a disappointing display, that's for sure.
It's so disappointing, more so because Chelsea have made no secret of the fact that this season was all about the Champions League for them, for Sonia, for kind of the players that they brought in, the likes of Lucy Bronze, Kira Walsh, Naomi Gurma. These players are the kind of players who should be winning the Champions League because of the quality that they have. And to go out in such a way was so disappointing. Like you said, I don't think anyone really expected them to turn it around. But at Stamford Bridge, you have to make that place their fortress. They still haven't cracked this thing that Arsenal have got of making the Emirates their home where they're scoring 4 or 5 goals every single game. Chelsea haven't got that, right? The crowd was about 26,000. I think they need to figure out how to get more fans in there because that's going to make a huge difference to them. But for now, it's kind of like you're sitting here. Yes, they're going to win the WSL. I know they still have the chance of winning this treble. But if the Champions League is what you want, you need to figure out how to do that. And yes, you are going to come up against Barcelona again and again and again. I thought they were getting better last year. They only lost like 2-1, right? Yeah. And this year, oh my God, that's embarrassing scoreline.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because they haven't really faced a lot of adversity domestically.
Yeah.
So it's like when you've got a team like Arsenal who actually have, it's almost a positive when you actually go out in Europe and you have this difficulty and then you need to come back. And because Chelsea have been so dominant this year and for so many years and cruising, they just haven't known how to do that. And I'm not undermining, like Barcelona are just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like so good. Seeing them yesterday live was special. It was so special. Like the Bonmati goal, the Pina goal, like wow, like
so
it blew my mind. And yeah, it's tricky for Chelsea. Are there any positives Chelsea can take from this?
Look, 8-2 is never good. It's actually never good. It's quite embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I think for a team, like you said, you're so mentally headstrong, but you've not been faced with adversity. And you've got a team like Arsenal who have been through this managerial change. They have inherited an assistant coach that hasn't coached a Champions League team. Chelsea have inherited Sonia Bonpastor, who's won the Champions League. So it's different. And I think it's so hard to compare the two. But for Chelsea, I think the performance, you can't take any positives from it. The one thing I will say is Vika Captain scored the first goal against Barcelona at Stamford Bridge. That's something. But the goal comes from Micah Hamano. It then goes into Aki Beaver-Jones, and then it's scored by Vika Captain. The ages between these two, it's average age of 20 years old. And this is the future for Chelsea, right? You look at the players that really let them down on the occasion. It's your Millie Brights, it's your Lucy Bronzes. I don't think Erin Cuthbert was particularly strong. These are the big names that have been there for a while, but you look at the next generation, those are the inspirational players. I thought Kat Macario made a difference. It's these kind of next wave Chelsea players that look the best against Barcelona, which is quite ludicrous to say. So I think if you're a Chelsea fan, you want to win the Champions League now. Like, it's not a positive, but it's, look, you've got the young talent that is going to be world class. I can guarantee Vika Captain will be one of the best midfielders in the world. So a little bit of a positive.
Yeah. Well,
I was just going to say, I think so much of that, though, is about this, like, we talk about Chelsea as being mentality monsters, but how much do they have these demons from constantly being beaten by Chelsea? And the likes of Captain, right, maybe don't have that because they're younger. Beaver-Jones, they're fearless, right? So they need to find that. If they do face Barca next year, I'm sure they will, poor things, but like, just don't be afraid. And, you know, maybe it's about playing players who haven't faced them before because they're not afraid of being beaten 4-1 or 8-2 or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, it's true. Well, needless to say, Captain Millie Bright was heartbroken following the game, and I was able to catch up with her in the mix zone, and she spoke about the heartbreak.
Yeah, it's just disappointment. Everyone's disheartened, and yeah, it's really heartbreaking. It's like I said, it's the trophy that we wanted, and I think we're just really disappointed.
Millie, Sonia said that she wanted you guys to come here and play with no regrets. Do you feel like that is something you guys were able to do today?
Yeah, listen, I have no regrets from this game at all. Like I said, in the first half, they had 3 moments and 3 goals. But the only regret would be us doing more on the ball and punishing teams. But listen, it's part of football. It's hard to take, but yeah, I think we definitely left it all out. Managed to get a goal back, and the reaction from the players was, listen, not one single player gave up in this game today, and we fought till the end, and that's all you can ask for.
And what is it that makes Barcelona just so unbeatable? Is it that attacking quality that you mentioned, or?
I think there's their technical ability. You know, all their passes are sharp and crisp, and they make very few mistakes. And you know, if we flip it and we do the exact same, I do think they can be vulnerable defensively. Like I said, I think we spent the first 20 minutes in their half. It was just the final part around the edge of the box in the decision making.
And despite the scoreline, you still had so many fans here today, really, like, you know, singing it to the end. How much does that mean to you all?
Yeah, it means a lot, because listen, the one thing we play for is the fans, and we're extremely disheartened with ourselves to not have given them the opportunity to go back to the final and cheer us on there. And you know, I think amazing to still see them at the end of the game cheering and chanting and applauding us. And like I said, I think today we left everything out there for them, and you know, we'll be back next year hopefully doing bigger and better. Thank you.
Millie Bright, understandably devastated there. And yeah, she said in that interview, and you can catch that full interview on the HaytersTV YouTube channel, so please do. She said that she was asked whether she thought the gulf between, basically whether the scoreline reflects the gulf between Barcelona and Chelsea, 8-2. And she said, no, I think we're there. And I think it was just a bit unlucky and all the rest of it. What do you guys think to that?
It's strange because I think before the game, so many people were agreeing with her and saying, yes, absolutely, based on the performances from the whole season. I mean, Barcelona have also been weaker this season. You know, they got beaten by Real Madrid for the first time ever in their history in their league. And Chelsea have been so dominant and they've looked strong under Sonia Bonpastor. But I think the one thing I will say for Chelsea actually in their defence is probably what's been happening here is the rest of the English league, with the rest of the WSL, are not challenging Chelsea to the degree that, say, the likes of Barcelona are being challenged to constantly. And that means you're not being held to that standard. So then when you do come up against the European elites, the likes of Lyon and Barcelona, and obviously Barcelona have proved to be stronger than Lyon in that sense, you struggle because you haven't been facing that challenge. You look at someone like Man City, who are supposedly meant to be the other contenders for the WSL this season. And yes, I know so much of that was injuries, and that's been terribly disappointing for them, but they haven't challenged Chelsea in the way that we expected them to. Had they done that, maybe Chelsea are a stronger team going into this match against Barcelona, but I do think that's that.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Because we talk about the WSL being the most competitive league in the world, you know, and it's almost as if that's not translating into Europe. So why? Because like you say, well, Barcelona are, okay, they've had those competitive games, but they're just winning all the time, like Lyon, the same. So what is it?
It's so interesting in terms of the WSL, because I think everyone has their opinion to that. I am a big advocate for the NWSL in that way. I think it's super competitive and more so than the WSL. But if you look at Europe, It probably is, right? You look at the Liga F, Barcelona run away with it there's no contest. There's this kind of misconception that Chelsea have just dominated the WSL for the last 5 years, and they've won it every year. Don't get me wrong, but it's either been on the last day or the penultimate day. So it's not been this title runaway that we've seen this year. If they slip up against Man United, it could end up being just 3 points. So it's not this massive gap that we all think it may be. But like you said, I think Chelsea have maybe fallen victim to looking like this big dominant European side this year. And I think that they are. I think that they're a really, really solid team. They're the best team in England. It's inarguable. But Man City have had this terrible injury crisis. Yeah. Gareth Taylor's been sacked, right? And then you look at Jonas Eidevall's handed in his resignation. They've got an interim head coach that's unproven in terms of the world's biggest stage. Both these teams have gone through such big turbulence. I think Man United have done exactly what they needed to do out of the squad that they have, but I don't think they have the squad to compete with these other top 3 teams. So Chelsea have kind of had this anomaly where they've done their job and they've done it very well. Like, don't get me wrong, but they haven't been challenged. And the WSL is this weird top 4 and everyone else. And I think the only way we prove and change that, the gap needs to be changed. And whether it's investment, I think we'll talk about it a little bit more later in terms of Crystal Palace. But I do think Chelsea have been let off too easy this season.
Yeah, interesting. And Uma, I want to revisit something you said about all these big players coming to Chelsea.
Yeah.
Sonia Bonpastor being brought into Chelsea with the intention of winning the Champions League, right? They made no secret about it. Millie Bright said there, it's the trophy we wanted. What could be the ramifications of this? You know, is it going to stop those big name players wanting to come to Chelsea? Is Sonia Bonpastor going to get more pressure on her? What do you think?
Yeah, and I don't want to kind of over dramatize this and suggest that Sonia's going to be out the door by the end of the season or anything, because I don't think that's the case. But on the flip side of that, there's, like you said, no secret of the fact that she was brought in to get them to the Champions League. First woman ever to win it as a player and as a manager. These are her credentials. You then get the likes of Lucy Bronze coming in solely with the focus of winning the Champions League, because she loves winning that competition and that's her bread and butter. And we know she wanted it. You hear the disappointment on Millie Bright's face. I think they're going to be disappointed with the fact that they're just winning the WSL and it's not the Champions League. So for Sonia Bonpastor, if she can't figure out a way to crack the likes of Barcelona and Lyon, if she can't figure out a way to even get them to the final of the Champions League, is she the right person to lead Chelsea forward? Because they can already win the WSL. I think, you know, you don't need a brilliant manager to take that group of players to win the WSL. You need a good manager. But what you do need is a great manager to come in and crack this European secret. And I'm not 100% sure that they will think that they have found that in Sonia Bonpastor if she can't get them there in the next couple of seasons. And then suddenly you get to a point where you're thinking, okay, do we need to look elsewhere with our managers? So
they're going to be knocking on the door of Renee Slaggers, do you reckon?
I mean, look, especially if she wins.
Is there such thing?
She's not for sale.
Yeah, she's not an option. Is there such thing as having too many superstars? Because I do think, like, when you look at, it's so hard to say that because then you look at Barcelona and it's a team of starting 11 of superstars. But I think when you look at, there was a great comment that's actually popped up there about unity and how important togetherness is. And I think Chelsea have gone and they've bought Naomi Girma for a record-breaking fee. And I don't want to speculate on Naomi Girma because I think she's excellent. She was not fit to play yesterday. Like, it's hard to analyze that. Kira Walsh, I think they spent too much money on Kira Walsh, not because of her profile, but purely because Chelsea don't need a CDM like that. They don't play with the midfield. They play in the channels. So I don't think you need to break the bank on her. And then last January, they've broken the bank on Maya Ramirez. They've got like Mia Fischel, Sam Kerr. Are they putting their resources where they need to be? Because I think they're lacking like fullbacks. I think Niamh Charles and Lucy Bronze were exposed. And are you buying too many players? I wonder, is there such thing as having too many world-class players? Because Arsenal brought in Jenna Nightingale. She hasn't really seen the pitch. They brought in Chloe Kelly on loan. I'd argue she's been better than Walsh and Girma. So it's hard. Like, how do you negate that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's because Chelsea's problem has never been a lack of talent, is it? It's always cracking this code of the mentality, partly the depth, maybe they're overstretched, whatever it is. I mean, Chelsea almost need to get like knocked out of all the other cup competitions and then just focus on the on the Champions League next season. But that's such a good point about where they actually need to get talent, because Lucy Bronze, I know she thinks she can play forever, but she probably can't. They maybe need to get some fresh legs in that position, don't they?
Yeah, well, we've got some more comments coming through. We've got Nuances of Fate saying Barcelona is the best team. And the WSL is overall the best league, but Barca is a better team. Fair comment. We've got but Annie Jung says, but Barcelona have played together for years, so it's made superstars, not bought superstars.
I don't know. They went and bought Eva Payor. From Wolfsburg, and she was unbelievable. I think Barcelona buy who they want, and I agree there's homegrown talent there, but they do have that pull. You're in the Champions League final. You're winning all the time. Every world-class player wants to go to Barcelona.
play there, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true. Well, talking of Barcelona and superstars, I caught up with Aitana Bonmati, Ballon d'Or winner, to tell us more about what it means to reach a 5th final in 5 years.
Yeah, we are doing our own path, and I think we are doing great years. I want to value my team because this is not easy, and we are making it like if it's normal, but it's not normal to make it into the final every year, no? Because we always face teams like Chelsea, Wolfsburg, no, Lyon that has a big squad and good players, but we are doing again and again, and it's not so easy. And
Yeah, talking there about just the legacy that team are creating, can continue to create. And what a kit, by the way.
Oh, so
what
nice.
a kit. So nice.
I think they're wearing that Champions League final. They're the away team, technically.
Oh, there you go.
So we'll see it again.
See more of that kit. Well,
Thank God.
I'm going to come on to it now. I've got to ask you, we're going to see Arsenal face Barcelona. Chelsea, we've spoken about it. They're going to win the WSL almost certainly. And Arsenal are not. And Arsenal are going to go and play Barcelona. After seeing that 8-2, should Arsenal be worried? Should they think about it differently? Like, what's your take on it?
Yeah, it's so hard. I think everyone's favourites going into that game, as much as our hearts tell us different things as English football fans, is Barcelona are going to win the Champions League again. However, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second here. I think that Arsenal are a better match for Barcelona than Chelsea are, purely because of their football styles. I think Chelsea got caught out in the first leg because they're such a physical team, right? Barcelona aren't a physical team. The referees in Europe are used to this kind of like tiki-taka football, as we call it. And as soon as Chelsea got on the second leg in terms of being too physical, the referee was really policing it. Lucy Bronze said it was refereed in their favour because they play a physical game. Arsenal aren't a physical team. They're probably the most Spanish team in the WSL in that kind of way. So if they can bring in the experience of Mariona Caldente, she knows this team. She knows them very well. I know it's a different manager. It's a different bag. But I think that Arsenal are a better match for Barcelona. Maybe it's not going to be 8-2. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think it would be a better contest based on how they play football.
Maybe I'm being completely delusional again, but I do think they are going to win. I feel like I can't not back them. And I do just think there is absolutely no reason why Arsenal can't beat Barcelona. When you look at the players, though, if you've got Daphne Van Domselaar in goal, if you've got Allesia Russo up front, if you've got Kim Little, Mariona Caldente in the midfield, if your defensive players have a good game, if Leah Williamson on top form, why can't they go and beat those players? Because like you said, in those opening stages at Stamford Bridge, it wasn't like Barcelona were dominating. And I know they were kind of trying to play Chelsea in a certain way, but they've also played Chelsea quite a lot. I can't really remember the last time they faced Arsenal. I think it must have been a while.
2019.
It's going to be a while now, right? So they don't have that same experience. It's a complete unknown. And also with Renee Sagers, I just think anything's possible. Anything's possible. She's so cool.
I really I like that point that you've made about, like, I think we suffer as people that watch the English league all the time of like tall poppy syndrome, where we look at this Arsenal team and we cut them down and we think, oh, they're not as good as these world-class teams. But you've just named 5 or 6 players that are probably going to be, or if not are already, world-class talent. So do we suffer from watching them too much? Like, I don't know. Have they underperformed? Is that why we underestimate them?
Yeah, I think that there definitely has been that element of underperform. They've just not been the top team for so long. Like we mentioned City chasing down Chelsea, and actually Arsenal need to be that team, and they have been more this season since Legez has come in. I think this Arsenal team can go really far. Honestly, like I think they've shown real signs of promise. But beating Barcelona, that's I also think though, 90 minutes it's a lot more doable. 90 minutes on neutral ground is a lot more doable than trying to beat Barcelona over 2 legs, including one of those legs in Barcelona. So anything's possible, right?
The travelling support's going to be amazing as well. You can imagine. So I think it will feel, if anything, it'll feel like a home game for Arsenal, because you can guarantee. God,
bookmark this video for when Arsenal win the Champions League, just so you can prove everyone wrong.
Oh, let's see what the poll is saying. We've got 74% thinking Arsenal will win the Champions League, 26% thinking it will be Barcelona. A few more comments. We've got Cat GPT saying Aitana goat. Okay, so we've got 2 goats here. Is it Kim Little or is it Aitana? Let us know in the comments. Kim Little Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, Valentine, Lake
Yeah,
Surge.
And then we've got plenty of comments. We've got a dynamic footballer, just full of praise for Aitana Bonmati. And yeah, you're not wrong. It's that she is world class. Well, I think we'll move on to the domestic league, the WSL. It's been great having two teams, by the way, in those semi-finals. Like, it's been great fun. So long may that continue. But the WSL, slightly sadder news. Crystal Palace secured their relegation. I think it was a bit of a long time coming. In the last few weeks, we kind of knew that it was heading that way. But of course, the nail in the coffin was yesterday, 7-1 against West Ham. Yeah, tough game. Shakira Martinez, a pitch perfect favourite, scoring 4 goals for West Ham. And there's 2 stories here, actually, because West Ham, we've spoken about their resurgence in the second half of the season. Wow. But let's talk about Palace, because it's that they newly promoted. They came up last year and were great in the Championship, playing amazing football. They've suffered this year. No Elise Hughes, who was a huge part of their promotion campaign last year. But I think it's more than that. What is it that means that these newly promoted teams are just going straight back down? How do we close that gap?
Look, this is a loaded question. I think we could do a whole episode about how we close the gap, but it's investment, right? And I think there was some stats. I can't remember which journalist put them out in terms of agent fees per club. London City Lionesses, who are currently in the Championship, have spent more than nearly every club in the WSL, bar the top 4, on agent fees. They've obviously brought in captain of Sweden, captain Japan. Like, it's a different bag, but Crystal Palace have lost more money than they have actually gained from that promotion. I think it's about investment. And I think in terms of Crystal Palace is an isolated event. I think they've got it wrong with Laura Kaminsky. Whether that was mutual, I'm unsure about why that ever happened. I think bringing in Leif Smerud was interesting. He didn't really match the brand of football that Crystal Palace played. He started benching Annabelle Blanchard, which I think is absolutely ludicrous, because her first 6 weeks of this WSL season were unbelievable. She was getting Player of the Month nominations. She was really taking this team to new levels. And I think Crystal Palace have fumbled the bag in the way that I really was certain at the first couple months of this season, I was certain they will definitely stay up. They were playing attractive football. They're no longer playing attractive football. And I think it's a closed conversation. How do we get this gap to be closed? And I think you look at what the WPLL are proposing, closed league, that's not going to work. I think it's like a minimum spend. If you can, they've got it in the NWSL. You've got a minimum spend. You have to spend this much money on player signings every season. That stops the men's side of the women's team from, injecting money. It stops the kind of reselling of clubs. It makes them go and invest on players. And they need to do this, because if you just let a lot of these clubs, we're seeing it. I think Rianne Skin is working miracles, and I'm so excited to see what West Ham are doing. But you look at Liverpool. Their men's team have just won the 20th Premier League in their club history, and they're not investing on players. Olivia Smith is going to be out the door. I think we can see that coming in the next couple of seasons, if not in the summer. So it's about, we need these clubs to invest in their women's team, invest in these players. You're not going to get promoted and play with your same Championship club and stay up. That's not realistic. That's not football. So I think it's such a loaded question.
Yeah, it's disappointing because Palace, coming up meant for the first time in a while, we had every single WSL team have an equivalent Premier League team, right? So it's not like they didn't have the capacity to do it. Crystal Palace men are literally into the FA Cup final. Amazing for them. But on the same day, your women's team get relegated, and in that fashion as well. What's the solution? I don't know. I think it's interesting, actually, because I had in my head this idea that every single year for the last however many years, the team that's gone up has come down. But it's actually only happened twice before it happened with Palace. Obviously, we had it with Bristol, but then it's only happened once before that. So I think part of the problem probably is what's happened is off the back of the Lionesses winning the Euros, the investment's just gone out through the ceiling for the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, and even clubs like Spurs to a degree. And then you have the teams that are missing out, like Palace, who just can't afford to spend that. And it shouldn't be on their kind of women's team to do it. One suggestion, I don't know whether this would work, but I just think there's no jeopardy for teams like Leicester, Everton, Brighton, those kind of teams who always finish around the table, maybe slightly towards the bottom. Should we be relegating and promoting more teams?
Definitely.
We need to do 2
Expand
or 3.
the league. I agree.
Give it a bit more jeopardy. Expanding the league would be amazing, right? If we could, and just make sure that there's more in it. But for Palace, yes, it's so disappointing because I really did think they were going to stay up as well. And Villa, I think, got away with one a little bit mid-season, didn't they?
Yeah, definitely. And it's tough. And we'll come on to talk about the Championship shortly, and that battle. But yeah, actually, it's probably a nice time to talk about it now, because if we pull up the championship table, we can show you what it's looking like with one game to go. So this is very exciting. And in a similar fashion, it was really exciting last year when Palace ended up securing promotion. So it shows you just how competitive this league can be as well. Sheffield United, unfortunately, relegated, as you can see at the bottom. But London City Lionesses and Birmingham City, with one game to go, can both come up. And guess what the fixture is? London City Lionesses versus Birmingham City. So a sudden death knockout on Sunday. If you can get yourself to Birmingham, go do it. It's going to be amazing. But let's just talk about if either of those teams, well, one of those teams is going to come up. What do we think we can expect? You mentioned London City Lionesses. That could be almost the anomaly that we've not seen come up in recent times, and it could be the exciting injection that we need.
I love the story of the London City Lionesses, and I think it gets a lot more flack than it deserves. Obviously, there's a lot of criticism around Michelle Kang. She's a multi-owner. She owns Washington Spirit, she owns Lyon, and she owns London City. There's an issue with monopolizing a sport. There's an issue with monopolizing women's football, but people throw around the term sports washing with what she's doing. That's not what she's doing. Like, she's not sports washing. Sports washing is reputation laundering. She's just injecting money into the women's game. And I think if she's gone and done that with a female-only club, obviously for people that don't know the history of LCL, they used to be Millwall, that they've now no longer part of Millwall Football Club. They're a standalone club. She's gone and bought this team. She has clear intent on getting this team promoted. She's bought Kosovara Aslani. She's bought Saka Kumagai. These are world-class footballers. It's not like she's throwing money at clubs. Like, you look at someone like Patrick Mahomes, who's bought an NWSL club. He shows up once every 6 months and he's just kind of saying, I'm a women's sport ally. Michelle Kang has got a project and she's so passionate about it. And I think had she been a man, I don't think the criticism would be the same for her. I think people look at her like she's villainous, but she's clearly intent. And look, I don't want Birmingham City purely because I'm worried about the investment side. I don't want London City to buy their way into the WSL, but I think as a fan perspective, stepping back behind the camera, I think I really want to see LCL in the WSL because they will shake it up. They were really good against Arsenal in the FA Cup. It was only a 2-0 loss. So I think I want to see them up, and I'm excited to see what that project is. But at the same time, you kind of want the story of Birmingham City getting it done. So it's hard.
I know. I think I agree, though. I think I do want to see London City Lionesses in there purely because I think as well it forces other teams who have been maybe coasting a little bit the last few seasons to have a little look at themselves and be like, oh my God, they're not going to go down this season because they've just gone out and bought about 1 billion players who are world class. I mean, you mentioned the ones you mentioned, but they've also got like Sophia Jakobsen, which is crazy that she's playing in the championship at the moment. But they come in, and if they can do that, then suddenly I think your Evertons, your Leicesters are in trouble a little bit, and they're forced to look at themselves. You also look at like the likes of Newcastle, right? Who I don't think they'll be far behind doing what London City Lionesses are doing as well. And yes, Michelle Kang, I know that, like you said, she's got her critics, but if somebody's coming in and investing in a women's team, how is that bad for the WSL? It's great. That's exactly what you want. So, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I have a feeling. I was surprised London City Lionesses didn't secure it at the weekend. So I have a feeling Birmingham are going to make this tough for them. So who knows?
Yeah, should be a great tie. You're right though. The point about putting that money in and female sport investment, like more of it is needed. So why are we throwing shade at it? And actually, if it gives the other WSL teams who've been coasting a little for a while, a kick up the backside, then that's fine by me. Like, okay, put a bit of money in. Like, they've got the money. We know they do. They've got Premier League counterparts. Yeah. Just choose where you're spending that money. Well, we'll finish off with the top end of the WSL because it looks like this week could be the week that it gets wrapped up. We've got Chelsea playing Man United on Wednesday night. If Arsenal drop points earlier on Wednesday night, then Chelsea will wrap up the league on Wednesday with a win. If not, they could wrap it up on Sunday with a win in the match against Spurs. Do we think that's inevitable, guys?
I feel like Arsenal, if they drop points, it would be kind of hilarious in the narrative because Chelsea keep winning the league at Man United. Yeah. Again, I feel bad for them. But no, I think it'll happen at White Hart Lane on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced that they'll beat Man United. To be fair, Man United and Chelsea are feeling probably awful at the moment after this weekend. So yeah, I can see Man United maybe even beating them. Don't worry, I'm not that delusional as an Arsenal fan that I still think Arsenal can win the WSL. Although, I mean, haven't you? Come on, Spurs! Like,
Don't say that.
I know. Beat Chelsea. No, but I do think they'll get it done. Yeah, I hope Arsenal don't lose to Villa because you want to push Chelsea to the end, and like you say, then it's still a competitive league where maybe they only win by 3 points in the end, and you're still thinking, okay, next season there's a lot to play for.
And yeah, I think people have been underestimating Man United all season as well. And let's not write them off. They've got a lot still to play for. 3 massive games against the other sort of top 3 teams. They need Champions League football. Mark Skinner said at the beginning of the season, last season was a disappointment. And it would be a shame for them to lose it so close to the end when I feel like they probably do deserve to get that. So let's see what happens there. But again, hopefully an exciting end to the season. And we will finish off by giving you the final results of the poll. And what do we think, guys? Drum roll, yeah.
Arsenal, given what we
well, it might be 100% Arsenal on that side of the table, but the poll results are Arsenal 74% and Barcelona 26%. Well, you have to wait and see. It's the 24th of May. It'll be in Lisbon. Arsenal will be playing Barcelona, and it's going to be brilliant. Arsenal into a final for the first time in 18 years. So yeah, you don't want to miss it. You really don't want to miss it. That just about wraps things up from our side today. Thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow. We are here on HaytersTV on YouTube and all social media, HaytersWTV on Instagram. Please do follow us for all your women's football content. We give you everything. WSL, Champions League, everything you want to know will be there. FA Cup final, of course, still coming up too. We'll be covering that. So join us again, same time next week, Monday, 4 p.m. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Jamie and Uma, for being with us, and we'll see you next week.